The meeting of the Licensing Commission for the City of Revere for December 19th, 2012 will now come to order. Before we commence our agenda, I would like to ask the members of the Commission and all of the folks in the chamber to please honor a moment of silence for the victims of the incident that occurred in Newtown, Connecticut. Thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of October 17th, 2012. Are there any questions or comments on those minutes? Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those minutes are approved. Second item is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of November 14th, 2012. Are there any questions or comments on those minutes? If there are none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of December 5th, 2012. Are there any questions or comments on those? Excuse me. Are there any questions or comments on the? Pardon? Thank you. Are there any questions or comments concerning the minutes of the meeting of December 5th, 2012? If there are no questions, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those minutes are all unanimously approved. The first item on the agenda, beyond the minutes, is the application by Lee Burbank Pawn for a new pawnbroker's license. Is there somebody in the chamber who wishes to represent this entity? Sir, please put on the speaker and please speak loudly. Press the talk button. No, the talk button. There's a talk button. Don't hold it, just press it. That should do it. No, it's not working. Okay, well, no. Okay. Is there a connection that we're missing here?
There we go. No, it's
There you
on.
go.
It's
okay, it's on now.
My name is Andrew Shika, representing for the license application for the Lee Burbank Pawn. Also, I would like to make a modification that the name would be called, the name would be Suffolk Pawn, not Lee Burbank Pawn.
Okay, and this is to be operated at 333 Lee Burbank Highway?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us essentially what your business will be conducting?
In general, it would be a place, for the community during these hard times. They can put up their personal belongings, for which they can take out a loan. It would be good for them. They know what they have to pay. They know when it has to be back. If not, if they do default, it's not a negative charge against them on their credit report. It's something that they can, monitor. They can control themselves. They see it. What they take and what they have to pay back is one amount. It doesn't change. There's no hidden fees. It's all up front.
Okay, I'm just wondering how familiar you are with the pawnbroker's license and what you're allowed to do, how long you're required to hold the item and what you can do after that term expires.
Taking items in, they would have to be logged. Also, that log could be given to the police department after a certain amount of days. From there, we can take that if it's cleared. If the item goes up for sale Any profit proceeds would have to be returned to the original owner.
What is the term?
30 days.
30 days.
Yes.
And if you sell it, what happens to the proceeds?
That would have to be returned to the person. Any profits.
Any
I would-
profit over the amount that you grant?
That was lent out, correct.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
I'm just wondering, do you have any
The
other
speaker.
businesses? Is this your
We are in the family.
new
We
location? Any other location?
not in Revere. We are currently operating a auto body shop, which is right next door, and we constructed the building that this business will be running. So we've been in the city of Revere for about 40 years.
So you have an auto body shop, and this is going to go at the same location?
No, beside a different address next
Oh,
door.
different
The
address.
body shop is 335.
Okay,
Lieber
but
Way.
what prior experience have you had with this type of business? You're in auto body, so
Right now, the building that we constructed, it's not fully occupied, so we would like to expand. So this could be a great opportunity to basically use what we have there for space in this building, seeing that 2 out of the 3 floors are unoccupied.
and when you say you'll check the background, would you be getting license, copies of license? We've had problems in the city before, and I think without getting a copy of...
Yes, well, having all the proper identification, and then, checking with the police department, running the background checks on the person, making sure everything is up to buff, and, the goods aren't stolen, everything is legitimate.
Okay, because I know there were new rules and regulations
Yes.
within the last year, I believe, that we can get from our office.
Actually,
down.
I was given, we already have a copy of all that, and we're in review of all that, just make sure we operate properly.
And will you have any kind of cameras in the...
Yes. As of right now, the building exterior-wise has video cameras. Once this goes through, then at that point, we will modify the building to operate, to have a pawn shop operate there, locked doors, special glass cameras also.
And how is the parking situation?
Parking situation, as of right now, we have about 16 spaces that are underground, that are in a garage. Outside, I want to say there's about 25.
And how many will the body shop need to conduct your business?
The body shop doesn't use this parking lot.
It doesn't.
Correct.
All right, that's all. I have no other questions.
Thank you.
One other question that I have, usually a pawnbroker's license is associated with the operation of either a jewelry store or a second-hand dealer's
Correct.
operation. Is that going to be part of your operation? It can operate independently. It doesn't have to be tied according to the law
Yes.
to that operation, but
The next step would have to be obtaining a second-hand license so that any goods can be sold for the profit.
okay. Any other questions from the council?
I have one question. So right now, are you operating at the auto body shop?
Correct.
You are. So
Yes.
are you going to be planning to spend 100% of your time in the pawn shop, or how is that going
It's
to work?
going to have to be. Right now, I'm not the only person that's at the auto body family there that's running, so I am able to step away to focus my attention to get this business up and running.
But this would be your responsibility in terms
Correct.
of being the manager to make sure that all the things are done properly?
Yes.
And what amount of time do you expect to spend in that position?
In the beginning, a good majority of time. I'm going to have to say close to 60 hours a week, if not 80 hours a week.
I have no other questions.
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to ask if there is anybody else in the chamber who wishes to speak in support of this application. Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the chamber who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Sir, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Andrew Iavana, 14 Joseph Road in Revere. I'd actually like to speak in favor of this. I've known the Seeker family for many years. They've run a business in Revere for, I think, approximately 40 years. I'm very confident that whatever venture they take on will be an asset to the city because they do run such a good business. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else in the chamber who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Okay, there's nobody else in the chamber who wishes to speak in opposition. I'll reopen the side of in favor of the application. Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the rest of the commission. My name is Donald Goodman. I live at 6 Lloyd Road in North Reading, Massachusetts, previously a lifelong resident of Revere. I'd just like to state at this time to the character of Andrew Seekert and his family. I've known them probably all of Andrew's life. I know the type of business that they run. They're a very close family-oriented business. They've contributed heavily to activities within the city of Revere. They don't forget where they came from. They're a Revere-originated family. They contribute to youth activities, other organizations. Very generous family. I have no doubt that they would run a first-rate whatever this pond business. I know nothing about it. All I can attest to is the character of the Seekert family. Danny and his brother and his dad, I've known them all my life, and I would just like to say at this time, I think that in granting them this license, I don't think you would have to worry about this becoming a facility where there'd be problems for the city of Revere. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Goodwin. Is there anybody else in the chamber who wishes to speak now in opposition to the application? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. What's the will of the commission?
I'd like to make a couple statements. My position on pawnbrokers overall is I don't really think I'd like to see them in the city. However, having said that, I don't know the Seekert family very well. I have a very nice family. They've been a member of the business community for a long time. The location is in a commercial, industrial area. I trust that they'll work this in a very respectful manner. I'll support this venture. However, if there are any issues, I'd like to be able to come back to it later. I also would like to follow that up with a second motion after this vote that we put a moratorium and a cap on pawnbrokers until we can get a handle on where we're going to be going with this, with the casinos looming in the future.
We can deal with that subsequently. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? I will make a second to approve this application. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Your application is unanimously approved. Now, Mr.
Seekert.
Mr. Seekert, we have your application is fine. Mr. Quarantella, you had another motion that you wanted to discuss?
I'd like to make a second motion that we put a moratorium on pawnbrokers until we can get a handle on the extent of applications we're going to get in, basing the fact on that if casinos do come in, this could be a real major issue for us. And I also want to be on record that going forward, I will not support any other pawnbrokers in the city.
Okay, I understand your concern, Mr. Quarantella, and I don't necessarily... Yeah, turn. His is on. You want it off? No. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. I can say that I don't disagree with Mr. Quarantella's point. However, I'll have to state that I don't believe that it is within the authority of this commission to set any limit on the number of pawn shops or any other activity other than what's applied to us by the state or the city council. It is within, as I understand it, the purview of the city council to place any limits on the number of establishments of any sort that exist in the city. However, again, I do agree that we ought to take a step back from granting any further pawn shop licenses in view of what is to happen with respect to the casino applications that exist. Ms. Quintasso, do you have any?
No, I feel the same way. I think we're all on the same page. I, at this point, don't know how many we have in the city right now, but I think it's something we do have to look at. I don't know what the need is to have these in the city. I can see, we have a few right now. So I'm in agreement with Commissioner Formentello that maybe we should take a look at this at the beginning of the year, see how many are in the city and where exactly they're located. I'm not too sure where all the locations are. So I would like to look at this. So at this point, I think if Commissioner Formentello can repeat his motion.
If I may, I'd like to make a suggestion for an alternative motion, again, because I don't think we have the authority to set an absolute bar against any further applications of this type. But I'm making a motion that we take it as a sense of this committee, this commission, that we will not entertain any further applications of this type until we are instructed to do so by the City Council after they have had a chance upon our request to review the status of pawn shop licenses in the city. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now, thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you.
Suki. You're free to go.
Good luck.
There is one adjustment to the agenda. We have a matter before us before the Casa Lucia. Is there somebody representing that establishment here?
Yes,
Counsel, please state your name and address for the record.
Mr. Chairman, Dan Buckley from D'Ambrosio Brown, 14 Proctor Avenue, on behalf of Cafe Lucia. The petition in front of you is for a change of manager from the current manager, Jane Rizzo, to the proposed manager, Raymond Nickerson. Both the current and proposed manager are here today in this hearing.
Okay, thank you, sir. Are there any questions or comments from the commission? Okay, this is not a matter that needs either opposition or support. Therefore, I'll make a motion that we approve your application. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
That application is granted. Thank you very much, Counsel. The next item on the agenda is Victor's Grill. This is an application for a new common victual license. As there is an individual representing Victor's Grill, please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Tobin, and I represent Victor Sakis, who's the applicant, who's with me today.
Mr. Tobin, you're an attorney?
Yes, I am. Yes.
What is your location?
It's Roslindale, Massachusetts, 735 South Street, Roslindale.
And this is Mr. Sakis,
Yes,
who
it
you
is.
represent. Okay. And this is an application for a common victualer's license to be exercised at 63B Revere Beach Boulevard. The requested hours of operation are 9 a.m. until 1 a.m. 7 days a week with zero seating. So this is purely a takeout operation, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
No questions.
Okay. Is there anybody else in the chamber who wishes to speak in support of this application? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody who wishes to oppose this application? Seeing and hearing none, what is the will of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. That application is unanimously approved. Good luck, sir, in your operation.
Thank you.
Okay. There was an adjustment to it, so I've got the new one. Do you have it?
That's the most recent.
She's the one that I got from June today.
All right, we'll go first.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Nyan Corporation doing business as Cash Point. Is there an individual in the chamber to represent this establishment? Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Marat Hunanyan. I represent 9 Group Incorporated.
Now, this is an application to amend your second-hand dealer license to change from individual ownership to a corporation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any questions from the commission?
I have one question. The ownership right now, is that currently you as the owner?
It's me doing business as CashPoint, trying to change it to 9 Group Incorporated, doing business again as CashPoint. Basically, everything is the same. We're just changing the business type.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else in the chamber who wishes to speak in support of this application? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody who wishes to oppose the application? Seeing and hearing none, what is the will of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Your application is approved, sir.
Thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda is 571 Revere Street Incorporated, doing business as the Cove. Is there somebody in the chamber who wishes to represent the Cove? Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is William Dolan. I'm representing the Cove Lounge at 571 Revere Street, Revere, Mass.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dolan. Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
You're adding 2 additional machines, is that what the application is for?
For videos.
2. How many are on the premises now?
2.
2, so you're going from 2 to 4?
Yeah, 2 more, yeah.
What are these particular devices? What do they do, Mr. Dolan?
It's a game they play.
Okay, but they're not essentially gambling devices, they're
No.
just games. Okay. Is there any question or comment from the commission?
What type of games are they?
Excuse me?
What type of games are they? Like, what is?
Well, like Pac-Man and stuff like that.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to remind the commission that the city of Revere is still under a court order not to disapprove this type of application for entertainment devices. Therefore, I'll ask, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
The application is unanimously approved, again, subject to the fact that the city of Revere is under court order not to disapprove. Okay, thank you, Mr. Dolan. Next item on the agenda is Tedeschi Food Shops. This is an application for a new entertainment license. Is there somebody in the chamber who wishes to speak or represent this particular establishment? Please state your name and address for the record.
Ismael Santiago, I'm representing Tedeschi's on 72 Squire Road.
Okay, and what exactly is the nature of the entertainment devices? I don't see that listed here on the...
Just a radio playing in the store.
This is a radio and what?
Just a radio that'll play in the store.
Just the radio. Okay, there's no devices, no television or no phone card licenses or anything like that? No, just radio. Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
No questions.
Okay. Okay. Is there anybody in the chamber who wishes to speak in support of this application? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing and hearing none, what's the will of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Your application is unanimously approved.
Thank you.
Before we proceed further, we have one Class 2 license for which we have a renewal application before us. I'll make a motion that we approve this particular application. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is Lara and Associates doing business as Plaza Garibaldi. Is there somebody in the chamber who wishes to represent this particular establishment? Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Dout, D-A-U-T, and my address is
200 Highland Avenue, Suite 304 in Needham. And with me is Kirby Bartholomew.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I am an attorney. I know you had asked the prior counsel who appeared if he was an attorney.
Yes, I'm just wondering at this point if you're the same attorney that had asked us for a continuance. There was a letter.
I'm with Russell and Associates.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct. And it was Peter Russell who had
So you're
called
not-
earlier. Well, I was hoping, that I guess there are a couple of issues here. First of all, my understanding is that the current license is set to expire at the end of this month. Mr. Duran currently is out of the country. He's in Colombia right now. We would, I'm sorry? He would not be back by the end of the year. We would ask that we have a continuance until sometime mid to late January, but that the establishment be able to operate during that intervening period of time. There is currently, I could briefly address some of the issues that appear in the letter just on the very basic information and knowledge that I have at this time. I'd be happy to do that to perhaps give the Commission a little bit of comfort in knowing that some of these issues are being addressed and they're not being ignored in terms of the request for a continuance. First of all, I know that there was in the letter an indication.
Let me interrupt you,
Certainly.
Counsel. Thank you. I understand, what your position is, but let me kind of set you straight as to what the issues are that we have in front of us so that, we don't get off on any
Certainly.
tangent here. First of all, as far as the renewal of the license is concerned, we have not yet been presented with evidence, a certificate of insurance for liability insurance, particularly liquor liability insurance, for the year 2013. Okay? That's why the license application for renewal was denied.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's number one. Now,
Certainly.
the second item is that the existing license that the existing certificate of liquor liability insurance that we do have indicates an expiration of December 22nd this year. Okay, so you can't operate beyond December 22nd this
Without
year
that,
without that,
certainly.
without that insurance.
And that
Okay?
is in
Now, those
process
are two
right now.
issues that are squarely in front of us. Okay, the other issues relate to the various violations that have been noted with respect to this establishment, particularly a fire that occurred for which no notice was provided to the fire department, and when they did arrive, there was a denial that anything had happened. Now, we'll have the chief and his inspector, who are present in the chamber, talk to that issue when we get to it. But the other issue is that we have warned the establishment in prior hearings within the past couple of months that they must have crowd control, they must have a manager or some authoritative person on the premises at all time. And we have anecdotal evidence before us that this has not occurred. Okay? Now, again, before you get into any kind of defense, I'm going to ask the various representatives of the city to come up here and talk about the various violations that do exist. The first one that I'm going to ask is Lieutenant Randall, who sits with us with respect to police details and other issues.
Certainly. Thank you.
Okay, as far as police details, it's been very spotty as to whether or not a detail is called. So many times the detail is assigned for that night, and later on the establishment will call and cancel the detail, saying that they don't have enough people to justify having the detail. So there's certainly a lack of consistency in the details that are going on there. As far as the manager being present, it's always been very difficult to locate a manager to speak to at the establishment in regards to whether or not they will have a detail that night. As far as other issues with the police department, as far as criminal investigations, Lieutenant Goodwin is present in the chamber, and I know he wishes to speak in regards to that.
Lieutenant Goodwin, would you please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record?
Good evening. My name is John Goodwin. I'm the lieutenant in charge of the Criminal Investigation Division.
My address is 400 Revere Beach Parkway, Revere, Mass.
Okay. Thank you, Lieutenant Goodwin. We have a report from you, from the police department concerning this investigation that you are involved in conducting. Would you please explain what's going on here?
Yes. About a year ago, we had an incident in the parking lot that involved a former employee as well as 2 current employees. It was a pretty violent incident. There was a grand jury investigation. A person's been indicted for assault with a firearm, and kidnapping. That particular person continues to elude the police and is considered to be a very dangerous fugitive. Both the victims in this case are employees of the Plaza Garibaldi, and we know that one is the controlling party of that establishment right now. He's in charge of hiring, firing, the finances, and the daily operations. That particular employee just invoked his Fifth Amendment right in the grand jury in regards to this criminal investigation. So he refuses to cooperate with the police or the Suffolk County grand jury. During this investigation, we spent some time surveilling the plaza and also entering at various times. And Mr. Duran has been absent on every single occasion that we've gone in there. This investigation has revealed that Mr. Duran is no longer in control of the Plaza Garibaldi. We had the organized crime unit from the Massachusetts State Police also involved in this investigation, who helped us with some surveillance in this criminal matter. It appears that the Plaza Garibaldi is in violation of 138, Chapter 138, Section 23, in regards to having a known manager or a known person that we can try to, obtain some information from. I'd like to comment on the night of the fire, but I'll leave that up to the chief. To me, that is just completely. I just can't imagine how someone in charge of 200 people in a nightclub can be evasive when asked questions about a fire. It's just mind-boggling. A week after that incident, the fire department called us down and they were doing a compliance check 1 week after the fire, and they failed to hire a fire watch and comply with the rules that this commission put on them. The finances of that place, from what we've investigated, the only time that they seem to come current is under threat, whether it be to the city, to vendors, to the property owner. And in our opinion, in my 18 years in this job, I've never seen a place that worries me more that there's going to be a major incident at this establishment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Goodwin. I see Chief Doherty in the chamber. Would you please come to the podium in order to talk about the fire violations?
Hi, Gene Doherty, Fire Chief. In particular, we've had the same problems financially and relative to order of details, I'll say up front, as the police do. There were nights when they obviously didn't have the crowd that may have necessitated that, but then there were plenty of other nights where they had a crowd and didn't call us. So that was a regular basis, and we had to catch as catch can. We were down there on a regular basis. The night in question that was, as the lieutenant said, extremely disturbing was the night before Thanksgiving, where we received alarms from a central station as well as what we call the master box tie-in to the building. And the deputy chief and an engine and a truck went down to the location. Upon arrival, we never received any calls from the establishment itself, just the alarms and the notification from their alarm company. And upon arrival, there was a small haze there, and the deputy chief, the building wasn't totally evacuated. The parking lot was jammed with cars and people. We couldn't get the fire apparatus in close. They questioned people as to who was in charge. They were very evasive as to who was in charge. A lot of the firefighters know Mr. Duran. He wasn't there at that time. And asking the people, each person that they asked who was in charge would pass them on to someone else. So the deputy chief actually finally spoke to the hired disc jockey who told them, yes, there was a fire, and it was in the closet. Firefighters went to the closet, and it turned out that somebody had already used the fire extinguisher in the closet. It was a exhaust fan. It was undersized for what was there. The wiring was illegal, to say the least. It was on what we call zip cord, plugged in to an extension. It had actually melted away, and it was a closet they were using for their amp power and the sound system. And the deepest problem with this was they may have extinguished the fire, but it was in what we call a void space. That was easily could have traveled throughout the whole building. It was up above the ceilings. The deputy chief had a difficult time in getting the promoter out of the building and the employees. We had to finally bring in a number of police officers to order everybody out of the building. They just wouldn't leave. This came in a little after 11 o'clock, as I said, on a Wednesday, the 22nd. I happened to be in the area. The deputy, when he found out there was actually a fire, he called in additional help, what we call strike a box, so additional apparatus come in. I went to the location based on our experience and history with them. And as I got there, Mr. Duran got there. Excuse me. I said to him, Gus, where have you been? He said, I just went out. I said, you weren't here to begin with. We went through all this. I said, how many people were here tonight? Clearly, what it indicated in the parking lot, in my professional opinion, there was in excess of 200 people. He couldn't provide the clicker for me or any tickets or any receipts, wristbands, anything that could justify how many people they had in there. We decided that the building would stay closed at that point, and as Lieutenant Goodwin said, we went back on the succeeding week to check on them, to see if they had a crowd manager. They did not the following week. We wanted to close the establishment at that time. The deputy chief that was on duty felt that the crowd was, again, at the point that it was probably overcrowded, but again, they couldn't provide any, they said it was a ticketed event, but they couldn't provide any means to tell us how many people were in there. But the police, public safety on the opposite end of it was if we did empty the establishment at that time, we could have initiated more problems with the patrons for the place, getting them out. They had just paid. It was fairly early in the evening. They had paid, so we agreed with the police that we would let it go for that evening. We brought in a firefighter and did this, as did the police. But we have a very difficult time in getting paid on this order of the commission that they have a fire watch. They currently owe us in excess of $3,600. They paid about $1,600 a few weeks ago, and we've told them they have to pay up. We're in the process now of, based on what is going on, and we have not signed off on their new certificate of compliance as relative to the Acts of 304, that we'd have to place a lien either on the property or somehow on the establishment at this point. And it would be our request that based on them not paying, I can't legally provide the fire watch, knowing they may not be paying, that we would say that they should not operate as of tonight or any succeeding night. I heard your discussion relative to the liability insurance and whatnot. But this has been a constant problem with us. I mean, Mr. Duran, when he's there, he's a very nice person, and dealing with him, I feel bad some nights that he doesn't have the business, but other nights he has plenty of business and he doesn't catch up to it. So there's almost like a game we play, and he knows exactly what's going on. He knew exactly what went on that night. I don't know who called him to come to the scene, but he hadn't been there prior to that until the incident occurred. Inspector Maniff is here as well. He's been on top of all the violations, and we did require them to upgrade all their alarms and things like that. And that's the only reason we went down there, is because the requirement that part of the Acts of 304, that we required those central station alarms and a tie-in. Otherwise, we never would have known. There could have been a serious fire, and we would have had an incident, as Lieutenant Goodwin says, like the station nightclub fire.
Chief, I'd just like to ask one question. What is the occupancy at this establishment?
I believe it's 200.
Is it
200 or 225, yeah. Yeah.
I'll just note for the record that that was Inspector Maniff looking up his files that told us that the number is 225.
And then when the fire watchers are there, they're directed to the doorman, whoever is collecting. They have a clicker, and they're to check that clicker on a regular basis or check their tickets and things such as that. So we've held them at that number a couple of times. They easily would have exceeded it, you know, as a standard practice.
So on other nights, I assume on this night there were no police watch or fire watch?
Correct. We hadn't been notified. This was a Wednesday night. Normally, we were there on Thursdays and Saturdays. And I think his business just about fell off, supposedly, on Saturday nights. And we had the fire watch on Thursday nights. And then we found out they were operating on Friday nights and then Saturday nights. And, you know, they weren't making notification to us, you know, and we told them they were obligated to let us know that if they had a crowd, even if it was later, that they had to make an attempt to call us.
Have there been other nights where the police department or fire department has shown up and they've had a crowd larger than what would have required a detail?
Well, our detail is there fairly early. I mean, if they didn't call us and then
if you
shown
didn't
up.
call, have you made, you know, spot inspections, those kinds of things?
Of recent, we have in the last couple, we have caught them. Yes.
Have there ever been a time where you felt that they required a detail?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chief Doherty. Inspector Maniff, is there any other information you wish to add to the presentation by the Chief? Please come to the podium.
Dan Maniff, Revere Fire. No, the chief hit all the notes on the issues there. But just on a side note is that the former chairman, Marion Hamill, under order of their license, that anytime the club was open, that they were required to have a fire detail, regardless of numbers, and they were required to have a police officer on site in the club and in the parking lot. That was per the agreement to obtain the liquor license, and obviously they haven't followed that for a while.
Yes, thank you.
I have just one
yeah,
question
go ahead.
I would like to ask. They're saying there was a fire there that was confirmed. Is there a sprinkler system in there that would have gone off?
Well, the fire was above the ceiling, where there was not a sprinkler head above the ceiling. So as the chief alluded to, that if there wasn't an incident there, if the fire would be spreading up, that's where the fire was in the ceiling. It would have rolled across the top of the ceiling, and before it did go below the ceiling for the sprinkler head. And once it hit the smoke condition, then the smoke alarms would have sounded the alarm. But as far as I know, there was a slow evacuation of the club, if there was any at all, prior to the fire department arriving.
Would you say that the sprinkler system is working? It's
Oh, no,
functioning?
well, as far as we know, the problem is that we haven't got back in there, and that's why I have not signed off in their certificate of inspection, fire or building department, because we haven't had access to the building to go in and check with their reports, or lack of reports on their fire alarm or sprinkler system, if they've had it serviced and that it is in working condition. Obviously, the fire alarm system worked that night, but, you know, they're required yearly to produce documents, which we have not obtained, since we have no contact with anybody, and there's nobody ever there to return calls or to allow us to enter the premises during the day when we conduct these, you know, our regular scheduled inspections.
Okay, thank you, Inspector Maniff. Any other questions from the Commission at this point? Is there anybody else in the chamber who wishes to address matters regarding violations on this establishment? Okay, seeing and hearing none, Counselor, would you come back to the podium and present whatever response you might make to what you've heard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Briefly, I want to address the last issue first in terms of the sprinkler system and the annual fire alarm inspection. I have with me work orders that were completed on November 28th certifying the annual inspection of the sprinkler system, pulling 2 inspection permits with the city, and doing the annual fire alarm inspection. So certainly there's more than a willingness by people who are involved in this establishment to cooperate with the police department. I've heard a lot. Obviously, we've just been brought into this situation. This is all new to me, and I've not heard any of this stuff. I know that there are some references to reports. I certainly have not seen a copy of any report that the commission may have reviewed. I believe that I heard reference to one that was submitted by the lieutenant. I have not seen that, nor has anyone from the establishment. In terms of someone having invoked a Fifth Amendment right, anyone in a criminal matter has a right to do that, and it's not because that individual was trying to stand in the way of a police investigation, but if one is involved in any kind of an altercation, the fact is that, you know, as a former prosecutor, I know that it can go either way very quickly, and there can be complaints going the opposite direction. And so one has to always be mindful of what constitutional rights one has in those kinds of situations. And so someone invoking a Fifth Amendment right is not about trying to stand in the way of police work and trying to get somebody indicted. Clearly the person was indicted. Hopefully the police will be able to find that person, and then he'll face that indictment based on the evidence that led to that indictment. Additionally, there's been a lot of reference to the crowd control issue. Mr. Barthelemy, whom I introduced to the commission earlier, has a certificate of completion that was done on November 30th, 2015, that he successfully completed the crowd manager.
Excuse me,
2012.
Counsel.
Sorry. Expires in 2015. And he successfully completed the crowd manager training program in accordance with 527 CMR section 10.13D, designation of a crowd manager. And so he is the person who is responsible for crowd management as doing his job in accordance with this certificate. He's certainly happy anytime it's necessary to talk to the officials. He does however, deny. I know that there have been, I've heard statements made this afternoon that it's believed that there were people in excess of a certain number, and it's thought that there were people in excess of a certain number. That, however, those sorts of suppositions aren't sufficient to establish what the facts are. And the fact from Mr. Barthelemy, when he's there, is that the number of people who are in the establishment is kept under what the license capacity maximum is, and he does not allow there to be more than what the maximum is. With respect to the night of the fire, there also is some slight difference in terms of what was presented as having occurred, and Mr. Barthelemy was present during that night, and he did bring the police, the fire officials to where the fire was located, and it's his representation that the people were out of the building, but they were in the parking lot still, and people had not yet cleared the parking lot by the time the fire department arrived. Beyond that, that's...
Counsel, I just have a quick question for you. So you're saying that your client was on the premises at the time?
Yes.
And does he have any records of a count that was in the club at that time?
I'm sorry?
Did he have a count as to how many people were in the club at that point in time?
I don't know if he did have a
Did
count.
he have any discussions with the chief or the deputy chief on scene at that point?
Again, I'm hearing all this for the first instant now, so as the information was being presented, I was trying to get some of that information. I don't have that information. That is part of why, of course, there's the request that Mr. Russell indicated earlier for the continuance and extension of the hearing date so that we could get some more information related to the situation. I'm glad to have had the opportunity to have heard from the city officials so that I get a little bit of understanding and background, and I'd be happy to see the reports, both the fire reports that were referenced that had been submitted, as well as the lieutenant's report that had been submitted, so that that can be discussed with the client.
Does he have any sense of how many people were in the club today?
In the club,
Well,
I haven't.
that night?
If you give me a moment to ask him, I can ask him.
That'd be fine.
They had 177 on the clicker.
Yeah, you've heard that the chief indicated that nobody presented a count from a clicker to him at the time, nor did Mr. Bartholomew approach the chief in order to discuss the matter. Chief,
May I just clarify something?
please go ahead.
Number one, this gentleman did not approach me that night, and clearly we asked. The deputy chief said nobody approached him. He had to seek out the disc jockey. There was no clicker. I specifically asked for the clicker. There was no clicker present. This gentleman is certified as a crowd manager. I believe the effective date is November 30th. We were there on the 22nd. There was no crowd manager present. We were there in the following week. There was no crowd manager present. Now, this is good for council to say now that he's corrected these things and he has these certificates of compliance for the smoke detectors and the fire alarm system. But we have not been able to get those certificates. Inspector Maniff has been very diligent about contacting the operators of the property, informing them that we need these reports. Now, council has said that he didn't get reports. We obviously haven't got reports. So, I mean, this is all great that we can play this out now when council doesn't have any idea what's going on, and he's not privy, because council has never been involved in anything up to this point. We've been dealing with Mr. Durant. We have no idea who this gentleman is, and if he's a crowd manager, he hasn't been notified to us and or the commission as to who's the manager of the property.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Just one other point, Council, as far as the difference of opinion that may exist as to how many...
I believe I said my professional opinion, the amount of the crowd. I have that ability to make that opinion as to the amount of people in the crowd.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. And that goes to the comment that I was just about to make. Counsel, this is not a court of law.
I understand.
It is a quasi-judicial
hearing,
okay? And we can choose to accept whichever version, in our point of view, reflects the more trustworthy encapsulation of the situation at the time, and the chief's professional opinion weighs heavily.
Understood.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to say that the chief's opinion has no relevance. What I'm trying to say, however, is that the count that was done on that night is that there were 177 in the establishment. I wasn't there. I can't say who was asked for a clicker. I can't say whether Mr. Bartholomew was asked for a clicker or whether someone else was asked for a clicker. So I'm not disputing the chief having said he made inquiries of various people there and he got the answers that he got. Okay. What I am saying, however, is that Mr. Bartholomew attests affirmatively that there were 177. There certainly, even if there were more than 200, if we gave full weight to that, there certainly were not more than the 225 maximum. And I believe that the statement from the chief was that in his professional opinion, there were over 200. And that's fine, and I take that at face value. But there certainly is not an effort here by the establishment to try and not cooperate. Again, I'm getting all this information as we're going through this process right now. It's my understanding, having just consulted with Mr. Bartholomew, that it's his recollection and understanding that on the night of the 22nd that there was a detail that was scheduled, but he does not believe that the detail was canceled, but he does believe that the detail that the person who was going to do the detail may not have been able to do the detail or something to that effect. That's his understanding as to what transpired on the 22nd. Certainly, the establishment is taking the statements from the commission with a great deal of seriousness, because shortly after, within a week of that, 8 days, I guess, of that occurrence, Mr. Bartholomew completed the course necessary for crowd management. And it's only, we're not even a month into it. And so there are a lot of things that are being done very quickly, very expeditiously by the establishment to try and meet their obligations. As I said, they just on the 28th of November got the inspection of the systems done. Mr. Bartholomew is happy to let in the fire department so they can look at the stuff if they have a desire to do that. He is the crowd control manager and is engaged in that process. And we are also engaged in the process of renewing the insurance for post December 22nd forward. And that's what I have right now. I'd be happy once we're able to get the insurance renewed to provide that expeditiously to the commission so that you can see that that insurance has been obtained. I've heard reference to an agreement that was part of extension of the license the last time. I'm not aware of whether there was a written agreement or whether there was some other form of agreement. And again, I'm happy if there was a written agreement to take a look at that and to discuss that with Mr. Bartholomew.
Excuse me, counsel. We're not talking about any agreements here. We're talking about orders that were issued by this commission to the establishment. We don't care if they agree or not.
No, and I don't mean that in any formal sense.
We required them to have certain people available, a manager, a crowd control expert, etc. And this goes back, and certain representatives of the fire department and the police department, that goes back more than 9 years, okay, which have apparently been disregarded by the establishment in the recent past. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're going off on a tangent that was not relevant to our discussion here. There are no agreements in place here. There are orders from the commission that this organization has apparently disregarded. Whether it was purposely or not, we don't care, okay? It's whether or not they did, in fact, not have the required personnel on the premises at the time when certain things happened. We're not talking about the fact that a crowd was ever in excess of the limit that's imposed upon them. We're talking about a crowd that existed without the proper control management and, excuse me, without the presence of the required police detail or fire detail. So that's where we stand. Okay?
And I understand. I think that there may be, in terms of what that amount is, and this is why I inquire as to whether the orders that you have referenced, Mr. Chairman, are in written form or some other form that maybe there's a specified. I don't know, and if anyone on the commission knows, I'm happy to receive the information. I'm sure Mr. Bartholomew is happy to receive the information as to whether there was a number that was imposed and said that if the crowd is more than, and I'm making up the numbers now for the sake of this discussion, if the numbers are more than 50, then a detail must be called, or whether it was a more general sort of thing where there was some discretion left to the person acting in Mr. Bartholomew's capacity as the crowd control, and whether it was something where he felt if there was too much of a crowd that a detail should be called. And so I inquire about that, quite frankly.
I will respond to one aspect of your statement, counsel. Whenever we call in an entity for a hearing or issue a license, there is a written directive that is sent to, and we can provide you with copies of the written directives, including the most recent one signed by myself personally regarding the discussion that took place just a couple of months ago with the manager of Plaza Garibaldi. Okay? Do you have anything else to add at this time?
I don't have anything else to add at this time. I would renew the request for an extension, continuance to address some of these issues more directly that were raised today, to review any of the reports that had been previously submitted or to which allusion was made during the presentations from the fire department and from the police department, and certainly as well, Mr. Chairman, to review the orders that were issued by the commission to discuss those with Mr. Bartholomew and the client.
Fine, counsel. We can provide you with as much of that information as we can possibly, do. But the point is, we're here tonight to make certain decisions about the operation of this establishment. At this point, I'd like to ask other members of the commission if they have any questions or comments at this time.
I would just like to ask the fire chief one last question. You're saying you went to the establishment, and I'm sure you can tell if there's overcrowding or approximately how many numbers are there. Now they're saying he had a counter and it was 177. In your opinion, do you think that it was that crowded that you're saying there was probably 200, which I'm sure you know, that maybe his occupancy is too high? If he's saying we had a full house there and he's saying he only had 177, and you clearly know how many would be in there, maybe his
Correct.
occupancy is too high.
Well, that's something that has to be, that goes through the building inspector,
Right.
and usually the owner occupant of the establishment hires a registered architect that will come in and actually do the square footage based on the setup of tables and booths and things such as that, dance floor, and they'll agree, the building inspector, and provided the architect provides that square footage under the laws of the Commonwealth of how many people are allowed, and they provide that, and that's what their occupancy is based on through the building inspector. My opinion that night was they were in excess of 200 people there, my opinion, based on what was out in the parking lot, still in the parking lot when we arrived, and they were still in the building. With all due respect to counsel and Mr. Bartholomew, we have no clue who he is. He's not the manager. He's a crowd manager. It's a far different, a manager of an establishment. The crowd manager has been dictated by the Commonwealth to be versed in the proper emergency evacuation procedures for the club, and to know that the doors should be unlocked and things such as that. He is not, in my opinion, the manager of the club. The manager of the club is listed as Mr. Durant, and that's who we deal with. And Mr. Coppola is here this evening, and he also has a lease in hand. I just asked him if he knew this gentleman, and he had no clue who he is. He's been dealing with the leasee, which is Mr. Durant. So, this is all well and good for council to say that Mr. Bartholomew represents the establishment and whatnot, but everything that they've done is from November 28th on. There's been no contact with us other than they came a couple weeks ago and paid a portion of what they owed for us. I'm more concerned right now with what I owe firefighters for what this establishment owes, and what the police are owed as well. And, we can't let them continue to operate, and not pay what is due to the city.
Does the council have anything to add to the back pay that's owed to the fire department?
My understanding of it, Madam Chairwoman, is that, or Madam Commissioner, I'm not sure how to, Chairperson, is that they are attempting to make those payments as quickly as they can. That's why they brought in the money that they brought in recently, and they are trying to catch up. And it is a matter about getting the money and being able to do that. They certainly, again, they're not trying to avoid paying the firefighters for their presence there, nor are they trying not to pay the police for their detailed presence there. And as soon as they can get the money to do so, they will make the payments that are both backlogged and on a going forward basis.
Well, what happens in the meantime with no fire watch?
Well, they will continue to make the payments as quickly as they can to get caught up, to make the payments that are due. And I would hope that the fire chief sees by their recent actions in bringing in the money that they do intend to do that, and that is what they're working on doing. And I certainly hear him saying that from his perspective, that he feels that it's only under duress that they do so, but the club's position is that they're doing so because they really intend to do so. It's not just a matter of having an axe over their neck that's making them do it, but they're trying to pay it down as quickly as possible.
Chief,
Just to answer that quickly, we had told Mr. Duran that he had owed a considerable amount of money, that he had to make some arrangements, and he had told us he was coming in to pay the full amount. That day, he did show up with somebody else at our office, I believe, and paid a portion. He paid $1,600 out of and still owed another $3,600. It is going to be my position that I cannot, in good faith, assign a firefighter for a detail there based on what has not been paid and what may occur in the immediate future, everything from their lack of insurance, a problem with maybe their back rent and things such that really is not my business, but I have to look at the financial end of it, of what the city is going to be obligated to pay the firefighters if these people aren't paying. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's clear. You actually sort of answered my question, but just as a follow-up, the overriding problem for me is when Deputy Chief Rich was on the scene, there were people in the club then.
No question. There were people in the club when I got there, and that was a few minutes after that. And I actually, I had Lieutenant Jeremiah Goodwin order the people out. I had said that the people shouldn't be in the building, and we were still. We had brought in thermal imaging cameras, and we were up in that void space above the ceiling, looking. We went up to the second floor looking for any extension, and people were still in the club. And they, if the crowd manager was present, that's their job, and they were supposed to have everybody out before we even arrived. But there is none. And I understand that they're trying in good faith, but this is all after the fact. This is what, it hit the fan, and here we are.
Counsel, can you explain any of that? Why there wasn't any response and there were people still in the club even after the fire department arrived?
I cannot. Again, I'm just hearing this for the first time now, which is why, again, I just renew and reiterate the request for the continuance so that I can get those answers to present to the Commission. I want to be able to present those answers to the Commission. I want the Commission to feel satisfied with the way that the operation is being conducted there, and to know that there's not an effort here to evade any directions that are being made, but to give you answers, I have to be able to get that information, and so that's where I am with that.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments from the Commission? Okay. Lieutenant Goodwin, please come back to the podium, if you will.
Mr. Chairman, this whole investigation, there was allegations of threats and intimidation. I just want to ask the counselor who retained him to be here today. Was it Mr. Duran or was it Mr. Bartholomew? And
I'm not going to waive any attorney-client privilege.
He doesn't have to answer that question.
I understand that. I understand that. But it just behooves me that a man who put 13 years of his life into that business isn't here tonight. It's just, it further enhances my awareness of maybe there is some threats and intimidation going on there.
He's in Columbia.
That's all I'm going to add. You sure
Okay,
about
thank
that,
you,
Counsel?
Lieutenant Goodwin. Okay. Counsel, at this point, what I need to do is make a summary of the situation.
Certainly.
We will take into due consideration your request for a continuance, but please be aware that we don't have to do that.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood.
Now, what we have in front of us are allegations of violations of this Commission's orders regarding the presence of a crowd control person and a manager, a person with the authority of a manager in the establishment at all times. That's clearly what this Commission ordered when we last had Plaza Garibaldi in front of us. There is also the matter of the failure of the establishment to honor the Commission's requirements regarding having police detail and/or fire detail present in the club at certain times. That goes back to when the license was originally granted. That's another violation that exists here before us tonight. There is a failure on the part, this is a fire code violation, a failure on the part of the establishment to report to the fire department an actual fire that did occur on the premises, and failure to cooperate with the fire department when they did arrive with respect to the resolution of the fire and or the clearing of the crowd within the establishment. We also have the fact that there are currently no city approvals of the various inspection certificates that you claim to have regarding fire equipment, fire retardation equipment, or electrical equipment. We don't have the city approvals of those inspections in front of us. We also have the fact that you don't have a certificate of insurance in place regarding your current insurance beyond December 22nd, 2012. We also, with respect to the renewal application that we considered earlier this month, there is no certificate of insurance with respect to insurance, required liability insurance for the year 2013. And for a final thing, as the Chief pointed out, you are in arrears with respect to this payment of certain fees due and owing to an agency of the city. And for that reason itself, we have a basis for dealing with your entity. So having basically summarized the points before us, I will ask if anybody on the Commission has a recommendation for actions that we should take at this point. I have some ideas myself. First of all, I will ask the Commission for a motion to suspend the operation of the establishment, first of all, beyond December 22nd, 2012, because of the fact that you don't have proof of insurance for your establishment before that date. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
I would also make one other point that one of the things that disturbs me the most is that the lack of control in the establishment. The illegal hookup of the fan with a zip cord was eye-opening to me. I'd be in fear of people at the club being in danger.
We have a motion and a second before us. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. So therefore, sir, your establishment is effectively, your license is effectively suspended from the period of December 22nd going forward for lack of insurance. Okay? Now, we also have the present situation. We are in violation, one element of which Mr. Quarantello just addressed, but you're in violation of certain fire codes and concerns of the city police department with respect to the continued operation of the club. Even though you've presented Mr. Bartholomew as a crowd control person, we don't know who is the effective manager of that club for the time at present. Therefore, I will make a motion that we suspend the license of your club for the immediate situation between now and the time that we just suspended your license beyond December 22nd. So that is from today, December 19th, to the 22nd. My motion is to effectively suspend the operation of your club, your establishment, your license for your establishment for that period of time. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Therefore, that license is suspended. Now, sir, I won't even go any further than that right now because that's enough. What you need to do, if you want, you can appeal this matter to the ABCC beyond that, but the situation is rather immediate. You have some problems there that you need to deal with if, in fact, you want to have this, this establishment, this license to continue.
The question that I have, Mr. Chairman, is I certainly hear your statement regarding the suspension of the license between now and the 22nd, then the effective suspension from the 22nd forward, and then also hearing you say that there obviously are, from your perspective, issues that need to be addressed if the establishment wants to be able to continue to operate. The question that I have for you then would be, what specifically would you like to see from the club in order to lift the suspension that you've just pronounced in the 2 periods that you've demarcated, as well as to renew the license going into 2013?
I think before we do anything, I think this board has to get all the approvals from the fire department before we move forward. They have to give us all the certificates before we vote on any license.
And that's fine. I understand that, Madam Chairperson. The question then would be, assuming that those permits were approved, that in fact the inspections that I understand to have been done and the certification that I understand to have occurred actually did occur. I wasn't there, so I can only say what I've got in front of me. But assuming that that were to take place and the fire department were satisfied with respect to those components, what then would the establishment need to do to be able to get this commission to lift the suspension and to be willing to renew the license for 2013?
Well, first of all, Councilor, I'll point out that this commission does not meet again until the 3rd week of January next year. So whatever matters that you wish to appeal or wish to present to us would not be able to be presented until that time. The appeal, again, that you have to the ABCC is totally up to you. But again, this commission refused to renew your license for the coming year for the lack of insurance. That's a done deal, okay? So what you would have to do going forward is you would have to apply for a new license. The earliest point at which that could be done would be the meeting of this commission in January. And at that point in time, you'd have to have all of your inspections and everything else, your appointments of manager and everything else, completely in line. You have to have your insurance in place. All of those matters would have to be squared away. And that doesn't mean that this commission would then have to grant you a new license.
Understood.
It would be a new license.
Understood.
Your old license, effectively, as of January 31st, is gone, okay, because we didn't get the insurance that was required, the insurance certification that was required. Okay, so that's where you stand. Now, the other issue is the period of time, if in fact you do come up with insurance between now and the end of December, again, without the appropriate certifications of satisfaction of the fire department with respect to the violations that exist, we couldn't put you back in operation at that time. There would have to be another hearing before that could be done. So, in fact, you're suspended, sir, for the rest of this year, and you don't have a license for next year.
I would ask the commission to stay that suspension until Friday, so that Mr. Bartholomew can have the fire department go in and see the systems that have been described as having been already properly addressed and recertified, understanding that that obviously is the front and center issue that the commission has described in terms of, before all else, nothing. And I believe that, based on my understanding, that the fire department would be satisfied by the inspections that took place, and that predicate then would be satisfied, so that they would be able, at least with respect to the rest of their current license, to operate.
Counsel, I would say to you that even if you were to resolve those issues, my feeling is there's a lot of management issues in terms of crowd control and all those things that clearly haven't been addressed over the last several months. And the fact that the manager's not here today on such an important issue is amazing to me. And so I think that even if you were to pull off, the ability to get all of those departments to sign off. And I would also have the electrical inspector in there as well, based on the fact that, with the hookup of the fan, that I would say to you that you've got bigger issues in terms of being able to manage that facility safely. And I just, I think that to me, those are the bigger problems. And I'm not convinced that you could do that at this point.
So you asked us if we would stay the making those suspensions not immediately applicable. I will ask my commissioners. I will say that I would not do that. I'll ask the other commissioners if they would.
I would not as well, just based on the safety issues. I mean, if you didn't have the safety issues, and I'm still not sure I would agree to it. But clearly, I don't see it.
Okay. Clearly, the sense of the commission is that no stay would be granted at this point. Is somebody else in the chamber who wishes to make a statement here, sir? Please state your name and address for the record.
Joe Capola, 337 Sharpness Pond Road, North Andover. My mother owns that property, and she spends quite a bit of her time in Florida now. And so I help her with matters with her property. And I basically handle everything, collecting the rent and so forth down there. This person, I have no idea who he is. I've never seen him before tonight. And just to give a little background, if I may, in August, we executed, in compliance with the terms and conditions of the lease, a eviction. When we went to execute it, after giving all the proper notices, Mr. Durant went to Chelsea Court and begged the court to reconsider that eviction. And after looking at it for 6 weeks, they did, even though it was a legal eviction. They did become current. We had no choice but to let them stay there. Just like the police and fire department, as soon as that blew over, now they're behind the rent again. For instance, even November's taxes, which they're responsible for, we're not, as the property owners, not going to let those taxes go unpaid to the city. So the $7,500 or $7,800 due in November, we paid because they didn't. They're in the rears $30,000 now. It's going to be another $10,500 when we get to the end of this month. Mr. Durant is not in control of that club. He's not. The place is in shambles. They're destroying the property, and we can see what police and fire problems they have. It is our intention as the owners of the property to initiate an eviction now again, because they haven't paid their rent in a timely fashion in a year, and that's why in August we just were fed up with it, and we did evict them. It got overturned, but now we're going to proceed evictions again, and I would ask this board to not let these people operate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Capola. As of right now, based on the actions that this commission has taken this evening, the establishment is suspended from operation from now through the end of this year, 2012, and they have no license to operate in the year 2013. That is the condition, the situation that exists, again, as a result of the actions that we've taken this evening. If you wish, sir, Councilor, you can take this matter and appeal it to the ABCC, and we will, again, also provide you with copies of whatever records previously existed. We understand that you've come in here at short notice, but unfortunately, that's not our problem. That is something that you have to deal with, okay? That being said, I think this matter is effectively disposed of. And we will continue on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner.
Next item on the agenda, the Commission has received communications from the State Lottery Commission regarding certain Keno operations. I will make a motion that this communication be placed on file. Is there a second?
I'm sorry.
We're going to put this on file. I'll make a motion to put it on file. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Now, Mr. Quarantella, you had approached the other members of the commission concerning a matter that you were concerned about relative to the last meeting that we had. And I will respectfully ask you to explain your position with respect to that matter. Please indicate which renewal it was referring to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's on P&M Liquors, LLC, doing business as State Road Liquor and Food Mart. I'm sorry?
If you might.
Sorry about that. I'd like to make a motion to rescind the revocation of their liquor license, their renewal. I have a copy of the statute. I understand, based on my interpretation of it, that the taxes have to be paid in order for them to renew their license. However, in my opinion, it reads that the owner of the building is responsible. They are a tenant. I don't feel that should not have a bearing on the tenant's operations, and that you could not really hold the tenant responsible for the landlord's taxes. I just feel that's wrong. My feelings are that, it's a family-run organization that's abided by the rules, regulations, and fees. I think we're here to try to help people prosper in the city, not really hurt them. And, I've been down at the establishment. It seems to be a well-run organization. And although I'm sympathetic to the treasurer and the tax collectors, I believe that they can take certain measures that in dealing with the landlord on that case. And quite frankly, my feeling is it puts this board and the city in a very tough situation if challenged. And having said that, I think that we should really stand by somebody who's operating a well-run establishment and support them on that. And I just think that we need to stand up for what's right.
Okay, let me understand your motion, Mr. Quarantella. You're saying that you want to make a motion to rescind the denial that we passed at the last meeting, but would you also be making a motion to approve that application? I mean, it's on one hand we rescind the denial. It's another thing entirely to approve the application itself. So is that your motion? Rescind the denial and approve the application?
That's correct.
Okay. Before we ask for a second, I will state that I, again, disagree with your construction of the ordinance relative to that situation. The ordinance, as I read it, unfortunately puts a tenant, a lessee such as this particular package store, at a disadvantage if they're, in fact, current with all fees and taxes, et cetera. The ordinance, as I read it, says that if the owner of the property is in arrears with respect to the payment of any taxes, et cetera, to the city, that this commission is not allowed to issue any license to any operation on that property. It doesn't make any reference at all to the operator of a package store or any other establishment. It merely makes reference to the property itself. So having said that, I will ask Commissioner Guanasso what her position would be on this motion.
Well, I agree with both my colleagues. I believe Chairperson Hennenberry, the way he reads it, I think we can interpret this both ways, how I'm looking at it. And I did vote at the meeting to deny the renewal of this license. But again, I do feel that the small business is being penalized because someone doesn't want to pay the taxes on their property. And I will have never voted to renew a license that owed any kind of taxes, water fees. But when it comes to a tenant, I think they're the ones being punished. I think that I'm very sympathetic to this business. And I'm going to have to second Commissioner Quarantello's motion, and I will make a second that we approve this license.
Okay, we have a...
And Mike Rifle.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I will like to be recorded as opposed to that particular motion. I would also suggest to the Commission that the appropriate person to which the matter should be referred perhaps is the city solicitor for the true construction of that particular paragraph of the ordinance. However, the motion was seconded, was appropriately passed, and it will be referred to the Commission office for further disposition. That is to be submitted to the ABCC, and we'll let them make a final decision on whether or not that ordinance applies. Having said that, and before I ask for a decision on the date of the next meeting, I would like to point out that this is my last meeting with the Licensing Commission of the City of Revere. I have offered my resignation to the mayor, and the mayor has accepted it, so I will step down as of December 31st. From my position on the commission. It has been a pleasure to serve the city, and I particularly have enjoyed working with other members of the commission, particularly Ms. Guanasso, for all the years that we've been together. And I would like to wish whoever succeeds me the best in terms of doing the best for the citizens of Revere. So at this point, I'd like to ask, what is the date for the...
I would just like to, before we set a date, I would just like to wish Chairperson Tom Henneberry well. I know he's going off. He has a new grandchild coming, a lot of family commitments, and it's been wonderful working with such a gentleman, and I will miss you. I've been very lucky. I've worked with Bob Mara, I've worked with Michael Pepe, and now Joe Quarantello, and I can say wonderful people to work with, and I think we worked well together, and you will be missed.
I would also like to say, Tom, that it's been a pleasure, although it's been short, and I have a lot of respect for you, and you've done a tremendous job in this position, and I would like to have seen you stay on longer. But having said that, I wish you a lot of luck.
Well, thank you all. Again, we have to decide on the next date for the meeting of the commission. That's the third Wednesday of January is what date? The 16th of January. Does that present any problem for the members of the commission? Okay, so the 16th of January is set as the next meeting of the commission. Since that's decided, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion is approved. Thank you all very much. This commission is adjourned.